We're back here on the Neil Haley Show's Freedom from Addiction segment, and I'm excited to welcome the program Reverend Winn Henderson. Reverend Winn, how are you? We continue. We're slowly opening up, and something else had to come up, right? Another one of this 2020 challenges. But that's what you teach, is we have to overcome our challenges.
Yeah, so it wasn't bad enough with everything happened with coronavirus. Now we got people protesting and riots all over the country.
Exactly. And our topic in the way to kind of, feel, and I believe this is a very important thing when to talk about, is relationships. People who are single are looking to connect with someone and find love. And love now is no longer the bars anymore. No more a friend introducing. It's through online relationships. That's how they first start in relationships, even before going on a date, especially with the pandemic and coronavirus, and that you really can't see each other till things get better. But online you can in ways. So explain our topic for today.
Neil, we're going to talk about how do two people develop intimacy quickly. And so SOCIT, SOCITT, stands for Stream of Consciousness, Intimacy, Truth Training. It's a psychological program that I developed for rapidly increasing and expanding interpersonal intimacy. And I'm sure that you're thinking, well, what is intimacy? So I'm going to define it for you. Intimacy is a close, familiar, and usually affectionate or loving personal relationship with another person or group. It's a close association with detailed knowledge and deep understanding of that person or group. The definition of intimacy is not just about two bodies getting together for sex, although sexual intimacy is often the connotation for the word. It's a state of extreme interpersonal emotional closeness, such that each party's personal space can be entered without causing them discomfort. Now, this is a self-implemented discovery process that enables you to empower yourself and your current or potential relationship partner to develop an intimacy with each other that could otherwise take weeks or months or even years to obtain. The difference with SOCIT, however, is that you can achieve this intimacy within a day, and in some cases, within as few as 4 hours. Yeah, so some people live entire lifetimes in ignorance about their partners, constantly guessing what's on his or her mind, or in fear of what would happen if true feelings, concerns, or even simple private thoughts were expressed to their partner. But by learning the SOCIT process and putting it into action, you can banish the fear and repression that results from not being able or allowed to be who you really are when you are with your relationship partner.
Yes.
The SOCIT process could result in the discovery of a new freedom in your life and new potential for developing a richer and more meaningful relationship with yourself and your partner. Now, I need to tell you that there are two concepts that are essential for this process to work. And those two concepts are, first, openness or transparency. And secondly, absolute honesty. Dishonesty, even in the little white lie that you say to spare your partner's discomfort, cannot exist here. When both parties adopt these two concepts, each partner may learn things about his or her behavior, attitudes, desires, and values that have been hidden deep inside up until this point in his or her life. When these behaviors, attitudes, desires, and values are allowed to surface for both partners, the individual partners and the relationship will most likely change in one of three ways. First, the relationship is strengthened and nurtured in the immediate and long-term future. Secondly, the relationship partners determine that they would be happier with only a platonic rather than a romantic relationship between them and choose to call an end to romantic involvement. And three, the relationship partners determine that to be happy, the two should separate and go about living completely separate lives. Regardless of where you are in life and of your relationship, when you begin the socket process, you and your current or potential relationship partner will actively and collaboratively participate in the process with the promise and trust that you both will be open and honest in your comments and discussions, and that both will put aside any impulse or deliberate action to manipulate or punish the other person. Now, remember that no two people are identical in their views on all things. On one hand, diversity is a gift that can deliver spice to a relationship.
Yes.
But on the other hand, some differences cannot be reconciled and may lead to the decision to discontinue an existing relationship or not to pursue a relationship with a potential relationship partner. For a sound and balanced relationship to flourish, both parties must truly know the other intimately and be able to truly accept and grow to love the other completely with all the warts of different opinions, likes, and dislikes. Each individual must determine for himself or herself what he or she is capable of accepting and or capable of modifying in order to grow and continue the existing or future relationship. And that acceptance or modification must be undertaken by the individual freely and with full responsibility and accountability for the results of such acceptance or modification. Now, the technique that I use to implement the full socket protocol is to agree with the verbal contract on the specific length of time it will be used. This could be an hour, a day, until the end of the present conversation, or forever. The relationship partners agree that whenever a thought comes to their mind during a conversation, they will verbalize the thought and stream the consciousness of it so that the other party will know what they're thinking. You could be thinking, I don't believe what you're saying. Or, that was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard you say. Or, what you just said really made me feel, and then you fill in the blank. You just stream whatever comes into your consciousness, and perhaps you say out loud, I am now streaming to you. Then your partner can respond to what you said, and you can continue this discussion back and forth until each person knows where the other person stands. If you do this on a consistent basis, you will not be holding things in or misinterpreting what the other person has said, and you will quickly develop significant intimacy. So basically, that's it. And Neil, if you will pretend like you're a listener today, ask me what questions came to mind when I tried to explain them.
See, now when I think about this, you really want to see if there's red flags up in the relationship you're trying to develop very early in the conversation. And if you see the red flags where there's no connectivity or there's no back and forth and there's real no gel, don't waste your time going any further.
Right. Yeah, the full program is in my book, The Definitive Guide to Recognizing and Avoiding Romantic Relationship Scammers and Catfishers. And once you've gotten through the first part of the book and you've eliminated the person as a romantic relationship scammer, then you can go on to develop this intimacy with them. And while you're developing this intimacy, you'll be talking about 100 different separate things. And you'll use this second exercise to get to the heart of the matter. And by the time that you're through with the 100 different things, you will know this person probably better than anybody else on the planet. And you can make a decision at that time, or even earlier in the discussion, if certain things come up that you know absolutely you cannot accept, whether or not you want to meet the person. And that's basically what I try to do, is save people time, money, effort in going to meetings that don't stand a chance of resulting in a long-term relationship.
It's something to really think about. I got another question for you. What if the person doesn't like that you're asking questions?
Well, I've had this kind of reaction before. They say, well, this sounds like a test to me, and I don't like to take tests. But you have to explain to the person that dating is a test. If you're in person, you have had to give up your time to meet them, the mileage it took you to get there, the time, the expense of the date and everything. And you're doing a test, but you're doing it the way that it's been done for the last 40 or 50 years. And how well has that been serving us? Our divorce rate is so high, people don't even know about the other person completely until sometimes after they've been married 20 years. And what I'm saying is, you don't want to do that. You want to get to know this person as much as you can before you have that first cup of coffee. Because if you do, you may not want to have that first cup of coffee.
That's right. And so all this is in your book, the list of those questions.
All this, I put 2 books together, and the one starts off with how to eliminate scammers, because that's what you're going to find on the internet, and you don't want to be giving your personal information away to them, because that's not going to result in anything other than them trying to get your money. And after you've done that, and you can feel comfortable with the person, develop a close personal relationship with them so that you can determine whether or not they are a potential candidate for a long-term relationship. And if they are, then you can go on to the next step, which would be a personal meeting.
Yeah. And then there you go. And then that begins that process of the right thing, and you're really asking questions. So in your book, basically you can take those questions and throw a bunch of them quickly, but the right answers, because if it's a scammer, pretty much you'll know right away, right? Because they're going to be very defensive, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things in the book that tells you how to interact with a scammer to tell whether or not he or she is a real person and whether they're just trying to scam you.
What happens when you spot it's a scammer? What do you do?
Well, sometimes I have a little fun with them, and I say, but I'm saying it from my perspective. I've been researching scammers for over 6 months in preparation for writing a book on them. And I have determined that you are a scammer. What do you have to say about that? And that's sometimes interesting if I'm bored to hear their responses. They're often quite similar, but pretty much they'll just drop off and disconnect because they don't want to have a conversation with someone that's not going to be a potential victim.
Oh, wow. What, anything else do you do, or do you report them?
I report them. The biggest scamming site on the internet, in my opinion, is Plenty of Fish. The reason? Because Plenty of Fish is free to people to sign up. It's also free for scammers to sign up. So they can put up a false profile every few minutes if necessary, and it doesn't cost them a fee to do it. So they go fishing for people to scam on there. And if you know what type of techniques they use, you can spot them pretty easily.
But if you don't, it's bad news. All right. Well, I appreciate all this information. It's something for definitely my listeners to gain from this, because this is just stuff that, wow, every day people are looking for a relationship. And how has that challenge been for other people now with coronavirus when they do finally meet in person with this disease?
Well, it's been a challenge in that they're having to stay at home. When they're having to stay at home, they're bored. The more bored they are, the more they use the internet to try to find their love interest. And so the number of people that are getting scammed is going up. And since you can't meet the person in person, except under unusual circumstances on a routine basis, you have to talk to them by telephone or messaging them. And so the potential for harm is much greater now that we are in the uh, coronavirus problem.
What have you heard about relationships that are newer relationships happening now with coronavirus? That could be another topic. Have that disappeared in a lot of ways, and a lot of people can't even find somebody right now because of being locked up in their house or forced to not go out?
Well, it's very difficult, and as the country is opening up, it'll get less difficult. But for 2 or 3 months now, you couldn't even meet somebody that you wanted to meet in a dating situation without all kinds of things being thrown at you, which would inhibit you getting to know them, like masks, gloves, going inside to sit down in a restaurant. There's so many things that you couldn't do. Now, perhaps you can do more of them, but if you don't determine up front whether or not this is a good candidate, you're going to have a higher chance of getting scammed.
Okay, best place we can find information on you, Winn, and stuff. Where can we go?
Well, if you want to read this book, which tells you all the stuff that you need to know about how not to get scammed, and then after you've read that part of it, how to develop intimacy with another person to find out whether or not they possibly could be a long-term relationship partner, is by the book, The Definitive Guide to Recognizing and Avoiding Romantic Relationship Scammers and Catfishers, which is available on Amazon.com. In addition to that, you can go to my free podcast and find out all kinds of information. There are scores and scores of people that I've interviewed, and you can just scroll through it, finding the programs that you want to hear about. You go there by going to www.freedomfromaddiction.libsyn.com, spelling Libsyn, Libsyn. And you can go to my website, which is www.revwinnhendersonmd. And that will take you to a website which is giving you more information. Also, you can see my YouTube profile and see about 25 different YouTube videos at Winn Henderson, MD. So that pretty much sums up how you can get to me whenever you want to.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thanks for stopping by again for this segment on my syndicated broadcasts, and also for people tuning into the podcast. It was nice talking to you guys again and learning such great information on this Freedom from Addiction segment.